All right, thanks a lot, Stan. Now let's move into a discussion about green technologies. An article in the Daily Journal from Johnson County, Indiana on March 31st showcases an Indiana resident finding alternative forms of energy. Now he says solar panels and wind turbines are the most popular in Indiana. Jesse, JC, and John are with me once again. And why don't we start with, we're going to get into wind a little bit later in the show, but we can go ahead and touch on that right now. That's something that's on the top of your mind, right, Jesse?
Sure. You know, Indiana has just made dramatic strides in tapping into its significant wind power potential. We have about 40,000 megawatts of wind power potential in Indiana, and already almost more than 500 megawatts of wind has already been built. But in addition to that, Indiana has substantial amounts of biomass resources, and in the future we'll have fairly good solar resources. Tell
me, when you say biomass, for those who don't understand that term, what does that mean?
It could mean one of many different things. Ultimately, it's derived from plant or animals. So it could be energy crops that are combusted to produce electricity. It could be, or ethanol, or it could be animal waste from hogs and chicken and dairy cows that's again used to produce electricity or natural gas.
Okay. So, John, why don't we go to you real quickly if we would. Talking about, you know, how Indiana is unique in its own way, what do you think we should be looking at when we're looking at green technologies?
Certainly we're an auto production state, and I think we need to get in the forefront of the electric car and smart grid connected with the electric car production. We've got some battery people looking at a major program in Anderson, and I think there are many other possibilities for Indiana companies to lead the way with the new technologies and the new green energy jobs.
Taking it a little bit smaller and talking about individual homeowners and that kind of thing. I mean, obviously we're seeing a lot of homes going up that are, you know, using energy efficiency and that kind of thing. What should homeowners be doing with their homes if they are able to? Would somebody like to take that one? Jesse?
Sure, try it.
JC? Yes.
Well, I think the first thing is simply be aware that there are a huge variety of very interesting new products available, building materials, appliances, many things that even 2 or 3 years ago we wouldn't have thought about, or maybe we would have thought about but thought, well, that's really too expensive. And we find now that the idea of, well, I'll just keep the old fridge down in the basement, and you discovered that you're far better off getting rid of it and replacing it with a much more energy efficient refrigerator. There are a whole host of examples. On-demand water heaters are another great example.
We're just seeing video right now, the evergreen homes that were built in Bloomington that actually looked at these kinds of things. Stan actually has a question for one of you right now.
Mr. Goss, I want to go back for a second to what you were saying about the auto manufacturing economy. And in Indiana, there really is this still sort of 19th century manufacturing ideal in many places. Kokomo comes immediately to mind. I'm wondering how you think that in places like that, where that idea is so ingrained in the population, you get people to not only change what they've done for decades and decades, but also convince them to outlay the large amounts of money that it'll take to actually change over to these clean technologies and this new power grid.
Certainly, if they're going to be in business, they're going to have to make the investment in the newer products that are going to be energy efficient. If Indiana companies continue to do it the old way, then they're not going to have any future. We're not going to have jobs in Indiana. So I think that's the challenge, is to pick up the pace, find the technologies that are going to be in demand, and make the investments. We've got to see a lot of investment in Indiana. It's not going to be handed to us. This is going to take entrepreneurs and the state of Indiana and the communities to get behind these new technologies.
All right. Well, let's go back actually to Stan, who has another guest on the phone. Stan?
Thanks, Stan. On the phone with me now is Steve Burton. He's the Vice President of the Commissioners in White County. Mr. Burton, thanks for being here. I want to talk with you about what I was talking with Mr. Goss about just a second ago, and that is putting in this new green technology. White County, Benton County, now Howard County has signed an ordinance endorsing wind power. How have you been going about convincing people in the northern part of the state that this is the right way to go?
It's one thing about, it's not so much that the commissioners or the county needed to convince it. The company was approaching our landowners or our farmers in the area and which they need approval of their land to put these turbines on. So it's a combined effort with landowners and the county to work towards these companies to get them in place.
Now, this is a particular factor of your land up there in White and Benton counties, which tends to be very flat and tends to be among the windiest parts, not just in the state, but in the country, right?
Yeah, we're in what I call the red zone. If you look, they've all got colored maps, and red is the highest sustainable wind, and they're targeting those areas because they're most efficient for their turbines.
So how do you get people in your county or in neighboring counties to agree, even if there is a financial incentive to have the turbines on their land, to actually have them put up? I imagine some people see them as an economic boon, but other people see them as an eyesore.
Yes, it's changing our landscape. This, as you said, our elevation is relatively flat, which is desirable for these companies. So it's kind of two-sided. There's a money incentive, but our landscape's not going to look the same because this is an ag-based community. A lot of it is being good stewards to the land, and that's what farming's about. And generally, most people want to be proactive, which I assume most of your programs have been about. And we've got a responsibility to change our old habits into these renewable energies.
Lastly, in just a few seconds, we've been talking about the financial incentive. How much could a homeowner get in one of these counties that's considering doing this, like Howard County, if they say, all right, I agree to have a wind turbine built on my land?
Well, the homeowner in general it's not going to lower their rates, and an individual homeowner will not be the benefactor. We're in an area where a lot of farms are anywhere from 3,000 to 7,000 in range. So the actual landowner is the benefactor of the cost. And one misconception is that it's going to lower your local bills. Most of these companies are generating and are contracting these green credits to larger companies. We may use this electricity locally, but somebody else is the end recipient of this energy. If that makes sense.
It does. Mr. Burton, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate you being on the program.
Okay.
And back to you.